Podcasting from Heroes Media Group with real, relevant, and raw opinions. This is the College Sports Hour with your host, Clint McPherson, and co-host, Greg Dixon.
What is up, College Sports Hour Nation? This is episode 10 of the College Sports Hour. I'm your host, Clint, and I'm sitting here today with my partner in crime and co-host, Greg. Today, we'll be talking about what went down in the college football playoff top 25 during week 11 of the 2018 college football season, and then transition to what went down through the first 5 to 6 days in the NCAA men's basketball AP top 25. Without further ado, what's up, my man?
Hey guys, how's everything going? Hope everybody's doing well out there, man. It is starting to get a little colder weather up this way towards where I'm living. Man, actually calling for snow this upcoming week, man. And so I'm kind of hoping that doesn't really happen because I'm not really ready for that yet. But, man, it's been a great week, man. Things are going well, and I'm ready to dive into this conversation. Before we do, man, I want to give a special shout-out, man. We're recording this on Sunday, which is Veterans Day for us, man. We're celebrating that, and, man, I want to give a special shout-out to all of our servicemen and women, man, who've done such a great job helping to defend this country, man, give us the freedom to really do what you and I are doing now, man. And want to give a special shout out to you as well, man, for your service for our country, man. Appreciate you so much. Very proud of the sacrifice that you made, and man, all the men and women that continue to make sacrifices all around the world helping to defend this great country. So, man, I just want to give a special shout out to you and tell you thank you very much.
No doubt, man. I really appreciate that. And I know everybody that's listening that is a veteran and everybody else around the world appreciates those kind words. And, man, it's an honor. It was an honor for the 8 years I served, and it's an honor to know the veterans that continue to serve our great country. And, man, I wouldn't trade it in for the world.
Well, we appreciate those freedoms, like the freedoms that we have to record the College Sports Hour. And, guys, just a reminder, our podcast can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Radio Republic, HeroesMediaGroup.com, and CollegeSportsHour.com. Make sure to like and follow us on Facebook as we continue to grow our College Sports Hour community. Like and share, like and share, like and share. Share it with your friends. Like it some more. Man, we're excited about this community growing, man. We want you to be a part of it. And today's podcast is also brought to you today by our sponsor, Blue 4 Tactical. And they sell just about everything you need for shooting, hunting, and outdoors. The Blue 4 Tactical website is live now, guys, at blue4tactical.com, so go check it out. Enjoy 10% off all purchases for the first 7 days and free shipping with all purchases of $100 or more, man. Guys, that is a great deal. Make sure you take advantage of that. Go ahead and visit blue4tactical.com. Be ready, be prepared, be decisive.
That's what I'm talking about, guys. With that said, let's dive right into how the college football playoff top 25 fared during week 11 of the 2018 college football season.
Woo!
So, man, we started off on Thursday, brother, with Wake Forest upsetting the overrated number 14 NC State Wolfpack 27-23 at Carter Finley Stadium.
You just jabbing it in there for all of our Wolfpack fans, aren't you, man? You wanted to stick it to them, you Seminole fan.
Hey, guys, don't worry. I'll ask for forgiveness later because my team is straight garbage, and we'll talk about that later. But, man, Wake Forest came out. They proved the point. Jamie Newman threw for a 32-yard touchdown pass to Jake Frenderthal with 30 seconds left to give Wake Forest a 27-23 upset victory Thursday night. And NC State, man, they were 19-point favorites heading in this game.
Yep.
What happened?
Well, I don't know what happened exactly. I don't know that there's really explanations that you can happen for this. I do know this. Jamie Newman was making his first start as a quarterback. So, so the guy comes in there on a Thursday night game, on a primetime game, and leads his team to a comeback victory to upset the Wolfpack. He ends up going 22 of 37 for 297 yards and 3 touchdown passes. And check this, all of it coming in the second half. It was like the first half, he got his jitters out of it, man. His second half, he just straight up balled. So, man, I don't know that you can put a big thumbprint, except for this. Wake Forest defense showed up. They may not have shut down Ryan Finley. He may have had himself a decent day, but that running game was nowhere to be found for the Wolfpack this past Thursday.
No, man, that quarterback making his first start, man, he was throwing the ball to where, he was leaving it up for his receivers to make plays. They made some incredible catches, obviously. You got to give it up to them for pulling the rock down out of the air and actually delivering this upset. That was huge for Wake Forest. Definitely, and it just shows to me that, NC State and some of these teams that continuously get this love when they fall out of top 25. They jump back in. I really don't think that they've done anything to justify a 14 ranking in the college football playoff rankings.
Right.
But, hey, I don't think we're going to have to worry about it after this week.
What? Why not? I don't get it. I don't understand it.
So, man, let's move on. We'll just keep it flowing. So, number 13, Syracuse dominated Louisville 54-23 in the Carrier Dome on Friday night. So, that win alone, though, sets them up for a huge matchup, with Syracuse going up against number 3 Notre Dame next week. So, that was a huge win. They win 54-23, and Louisville found out today that they fired the coach. I mean, they're going
Petrino, bye-bye.
Yeah, they're going downhill quick. They said we got to pull this plug in a hurry.
Yep.
What other teams will follow suit later, I don't know. But, man, Syracuse continues to move forward. And like I said, they set up a huge matchup against Notre Dame next week.
And it'll be good to it'll be interesting to watch that and see how all that unfolds as well, man. The Syracuse team is on a roll, and we'll watch and see what happens.
Yeah, man. And let me plug this in. It's like, I remember after the episode, you're like, why in the world did we plug Fresno State? But they're ranked right now in the college football playoff rankings. But, man, Boise State, I just want to give a shout-out to Brett Rippon. I mean, he came in. He became the all-time leading passer in both yards and completions while leading his team to a 24-17 upset over number 23 Fresno State on Friday night. He threw for 269 yards and 1 touchdown. And Fresno State come in here, obviously they're only 2.5-point favorites. But, man, Boise State had a huge win, a huge upset. And, obviously, Fresno State was having a good year until this game.
Yeah, Fresno State had been really relying on that defense of theirs, man. I think it was like the number 2 scoring defense or something along those lines, if I'm not mistaken. And so obviously their defense didn't make enough plays in this game. It was still, it was still up in the air, still a decent game, man. Fresno State quarterback Marcus McMaryion threw for 283 yards and a touchdown. They struggled in the running game a little bit, only getting 107 yards as a team and 1 touchdown there. This wasn't their game to win, but man, hats off to Boise State and Brett Ripken, man, for the career he's had there at Boise State.
Yeah, man, very, very good job with that because they've had some talented quarterbacks come from Boise State and actually represent. And so that's great for him to etch his name in the record books.
Sure
Let's move on to number 22, Iowa State, man. They are on a roll. 5th straight win with Brock Purdy. I mean, we plugged him initially when he got in, and, man, they're on a roll. They beat Baylor. Obviously, Baylor's nothing great. They beat Baylor 28-14, but, man, like I said, this is their 5th straight win. Brock Purdy throws for 230 yards. I mean, and they win their 5th straight game, and that's the first time, they've done that in the same season, winning 5 straight Big 12 games. That's huge.
Absolutely, that's huge, and for a team that's still considered to be a young team, and this quarterback right here kind of helping to right the ship a little bit. I tell you what, there's something maybe the highlight of this game was the altercation that happened there in the third quarter, the brawl that was getting ready to break out there. We had 2 players ejected, man. The star running back for Iowa State, David Montgomery, and Baylor linebacker Greg Roberts. Both of them get ejected briefly, or get ejected for fighting briefly, and so we're gonna have to wait and kind of see what happens there, man. There's a little bit of conversation about wondering what's going to happen there with David Montgomery. Might he have to sit out the first half of next week's game? If that is, man, that's a big hurdle for them to overcome because they have relied upon him and running the ball. We also saw another ejection in that game. Baylor quarterback Charlie Brewer threw for 288 yards in the game and 2 touchdowns, but he was ejected in that final quarter there for a second unsportsmanlike penalty. Look, you see a lot of people get unsportsmanlike penalties there in football games. Very rarely do you see the quarterback get it, but never do you see the quarterback get 2 of them. So, man, there was something there for that game as well.
Yeah, man. That definitely was the exciting point in that game. If you're not an Iowa State or Baylor fan, but again, Iowa State wins huge. I mean, they continue to reel off since they've made that quarterback change, and it looks like they made the right decision.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about an upset, brother. Northwestern upsetting Iowa, a team that we can't figure out that has a good defense. Obviously, they get beat 14-10 at Kinnick Stadium. But did you see the catch, man? Northwestern's Isaiah Bowser, he runs for 165 yards and a touchdown. But Brett Skornick made a ridiculous diving 32-yard catch for the go-ahead touchdown. Obviously, it was earlier in the game, early in the fourth quarter. But, man, they go on to clinch with this win, a spot in the Big Ten championship game for the first time. And coming into this game, Iowa was 11-point favorites.
Man, listen to this. We said this last week when Northwestern was playing Notre Dame. You even picked Northwestern to upset Notre Dame in that game. Granted, you made that pick at 1 o'clock in the morning, but still, you picked them to win it. Why is that? Because Northwestern has been a tough out for everybody this year. They have been consistently underrated. And listen, when I read the stat there that they had clinched their Big Ten division over and was going to be playing for the Big Ten championship, I was like, how in the world is that possible? They're 6-4. I mean, but all 6 of their wins have come within their division. Yep. And so, man, they've knocked off Wisconsin. They knocked off Purdue, and now they've knocked off Iowa. Man, they've got some big wins in there. So, man, what a great turn for this Northwestern program here that's really making a lot of noise. Maybe they're not ranked or anything like that, but, man, they're a team you have got to take seriously.
Yeah, in their conference, they're taking care of business. Out of conference, obviously losing games to, like, Duke and stuff like that has really hurt their season. But, man, and I'm liking what they're doing over there. They're playing some good ball, and they're not an easy out. So you cannot overlook this team going forward. And for the teams like Iowa that do, they get bit.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
So number 20, Penn State, they did what we thought they were going to do: beat Wisconsin 22-10 at Beaver Stadium. Miles Sanders, he had a breakout game. He runs for 159 yards, a touchdown on 23 carries. And Trace McSorley matched Todd Blackledge's program record with his 29th win at the quarterback position. That's a great feat, man. But, again, Wisconsin cannot get that running game going.
It's one of those things there where you're sitting there and you're looking at, and I want to say that their starting quarterback didn't get to play in this game. He was still suffering from a concussion, so they had to bring in their backup, and there was absolutely no offense there from his side of the ball. I think he completed a total of 6 passes in that game. They had no passing game whatsoever, so they completely relied upon the running game. They got some running yardage there, but there wasn't anything to really hang their hat on. Obviously, we look at the score and see that, man, they only put up 10 points. So, so Penn State was able to do that. But one thing that Penn State was able to do is get that running game going again there with Miles Sanders, man, getting 150 yards out of him, being able to give him the rock, let him carry it, let him get the momentum going there, which really is what Penn State had been doing early on in the season, and they got away from it. Yeah,
I mean, that was huge. I mean, so, again, like we said, Penn State wins a big game, obviously, for them, and it takes care of Wisconsin 22-10. Let's move on to number 19, Texas. What a game this was, man. Another game to watch. Texas beats Texas Tech 41-34 in Lubbock. But Sam Ehlinger, man, he throws for a 29-yard touchdown pass to little Jordan Humphrey with 21 seconds left. This happened after allowing Texas Tech to come back from 17 down in the fourth quarter to tie the game. But, man, they throw that touchdown pass with 21 seconds left and pull this one out.
It seems like it's the, same story, different chapter here of what we're watching with Texas, man. They're putting up points galore, but the defense can't stop anybody. I feel like we're going to say that about a team who may be ranked number 6 right now as well. You got this amazing offense putting up points everywhere, but you can't stop anybody. And if you're going to you've been saying this for a couple of weeks now, is this the Texas of old, or is Texas back? We hear about Texas being back. Texas isn't going to be back until they learn how to stop somebody. You got to be able to prevent the other team from putting up points, and I'm sorry. You're allowing Texas Tech to put up 34 on you in this game right here. You're allowing the quarterback for Texas Tech, Duffy, to throw for 444 yards. That ain't going to cut it with some of these top-tier teams. I
mean, it goes back to the saying, offense wins games, defense wins championships. So it's going to come down to you see these good teams that have great offenses struggle with the defense. And then you have these great defensive teams struggle with their offense. So it's like when teams like an Alabama or a Georgia or something, they can get a Clemson, could get that going and point in the right directions where your offense complements your defense, vice versa. You see teams roll, and that's that's what we're seeing consistently with the Alabama, the Clemson, the Georgia now, and stuff like that, where they're going to be the cream of the crop for years to come. So watch out, guys.
Exactly.
So number 15, Florida, man. Again, this game had a little bit of controversy, heading into it and before. They beat South Carolina 35-31 in the Swamp. But Felipe Franks looked to silence the crowd because, man, he got benched last week in favor of Kyle Trask, who unfortunately broke his foot in practice this past Wednesday. So Franks came into the game as QB1, obviously. He was booed early because they were struggling. They fell behind early. But the Gators as a whole, man, they used their legs to help catapult them to a win and end their 2-game skid. But, man, they still don't look good when they're doing it. But Florida ended up with 367 rushing yards on the day, primarily off the backs of Jordan Scarlett and Michael Pirine. But, I mean, look, man, Florida picks up a big win because, man, if they lost this game,
oh, gosh.
Oh, my gosh. I don't know if Dan Mullen, it's like, what's going on, guy?
Well, I mean, they started off red hot, and I mean, they were just rolling right along, and I mean, they get into this matchup against Georgia, and it's for the SEC East, or at least, we thought that's what it was going to be about, and then ever since then, it's been kind of like this downhill spiral that they've gone into. I thought that they had lost this game when they went down 14-0 to South Carolina first quarter. I seriously thought the game was over, and I never thought that they would make that comeback there in the fourth quarter, but they did, and so, man, you got to give them props to them. We're able to overcome that. South Carolina played well for the most part from what we've seen as far as South Carolina's concerned this year, but they weren't able to overcome that momentum swing that Florida had late in the game.
Yeah, and that was a huge rushing touchdown by Felipe Franks at the end of the game to actually put them in front.
Going in from the 1 yard line there on fourth down. I mean, golly, there's some guts in there. You gotta, you're putting it in his hands and saying, hey, all right, you can silence the crowd with this play here, go win the game, and he did. I mean, props to him, he did.
Yeah, at least for now until he shows up next week and.
We're only talking about this week. We're only talking about this week.
Reverse that. So, all right, let's move on, man, to number 12, a team that for some reason, and sorry, guys, if you're a Central Florida fan, I apologize. I might have left them out once or twice. So if you go back and listen to a couple past episodes.
Intentional or unintentional, we're not sure yet.
Maybe intentional or unintentional, I don't know. But, hey, guys, look, I apologize for any of the Central Florida fans out there. I really didn't intentionally do it, but I did notice it after we're listening back to a few episodes. I was like, why didn't I have them? And sometimes those teams that play earlier on, and Central Florida had a lot of Thursday or Friday games so far this year, to where I kind of overlooked that, even though we have talked about it, and I apologize. But, man, they beat Navy 35-34 in Orlando, Florida. Mackenzie Milton throws for 2 touchdowns. He runs for a third to help extend UCF's winning streak to 22 games on Saturday. That's big,
impressive.
Man.
Yeah,
it's impressive. They haven't got beaten, I don't know how many days. It continues to get higher and higher every week. But, man, they're doing it. It's impressive. They have the longest streak going on right now. And, guys, they're not going to make the college football playoff. And they probably, if they go undefeated this year, they probably will self-proclaim themselves national champions again. But, man, you got to give it to them. They're getting out there, taking care of business and winning games.
All right, I want to say something that has absolutely nothing to do with UCF. Navy, they have this game here, and they're bringing in the triple option that they're going to play. They rushed, all right? They rushed for 374 yards. Okay, they didn't win the game, but they rushed for 374 yards. Their total offense was 374 yards. They ran for 374 yards, and their total amount of offensive yardage was 374 yards. They attempted 2 passes in this game and didn't complete either one of them and ran the ball the entire rest of the game. That blows my mind, man.
Total commitment to the run. They're like,
right.
What? We might have to throw them off with this one pass in this half and this other pass in the second half to keep them on their toes.
That just messes with my mind, man. I'm sorry. Good job, UCF, but that just messes with my mind that Navy did that.
Yeah, good job, guys. You got the 22-game winning streak going on. And this game right here was one of my a game that, I expected Kentucky to win, but like I posted, I think, on Facebook, this offense – really having no offense is really starting to really take its effect on Kentucky now.
Yeah.
You can't not have an offense in the SEC. You can only get by for so long. Tennessee upsets and dominates this game, really, I mean, from the second quarter on. They beat Kentucky, number 11 Kentucky, 24-7 in Knoxville, man. And the cool thing about this is not only did Tano, I don't know how you say that, throws a 39-yard touchdown pass to Marquez Callaway in the final play of the first half, basically in a Hail Mary. And Darrell Taylor recorded 4 sacks as Tennessee just trounced them. But Tennessee has won its last 17 home games against Kentucky, which hasn't beaten the Volunteers at Neyland Stadium since 1984.
Were you born in 84?
I was 83, man.
Oh, you were 83. Okay, I couldn't remember. I knew it was somewhere in there.
Close enough.
So yeah, my deal on this game is that I think everybody's kind of figured out the formula here to, if you want to take care of Kentucky, especially if you're a good team. We saw it may not work every once in a while, but for the most part, it's going to work. You stop Snell, you stop the Kentucky Wildcats. And
Exactly.
Tennessee was able to do that, man. If you're able to hold him under 100 yards, it's going to be hard pressed for Kentucky to win, just because Wilson is not the kind of quarterback that's going to win you some games. He's capable. We've seen him do it in the past, but not consistently. And this is just another one of those examples here. If you get into a road game here in your conference, and your running game doesn't do what it's supposed to, and your defense isn't able to hold up like you need it to, and you got to come from behind, Wilson's not the guy who's going to win you that game.
Yeah, and Tennessee's had some good wins. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, they're coming up. They beat Auburn. And nobody gave them a chance there, and I really didn't give them a chance. I didn't give them a chance going into this game.
I didn't know Auburn was a good win. My bad.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I guess it could be for a lot of people at the time. I think Auburn was ranked.
I'm kidding, Auburn fans, relax.
I think going into that game, Auburn was ranked. So maybe if you want to look at it as a good win or not, that's fine. But I mean, they beat the number 11 team in the country, and a team that's had everything go right for them a majority of the year.
Yeah.
Granted, the Georgia game and then this game. I mean, this was a bad loss, I think, that kind of sets them back. But man, you need a quarterback, not just somebody that can throw slant routes, and randomly a deep ball from time to time and get lucky and land it. But it's like, if you have a run, if you're heavily relying on your running game, I mean, and they shut him down. It's like you said, it's going to be a long afternoon.
No doubt.
All right, brother. Let's move on to another game that just this team. I think we were high on at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Because from the eye test, but man, the eye test lately they haven't done anything for me. So number 10, Ohio State, they beat number 18 Michigan State 26-6 in East Lansing. This game was 9-6 heading into the fourth quarter. But the player of the game, obviously, which got a lot of love on ESPN, and I watched it, and yeah, he was on point. Punter Drew Chrisman kept Michigan State pinned back basically this whole entire second half. And Buckeyes eventually pulled away in the fourth quarter. But even though Ohio State won, man, they really were not impressed with me on Saturday.
No, I mean, this was certainly that final score right there is not indicative of what this game really played out with for the first three quarters there. You're right, man. They struggled. Ohio State was able to keep Michigan State at bay with field position there, and it caused Michigan State to kind of take a chance there, do something extremely rare, take an intentional safety in order to try to avoid punting out of their own end zone with hopes of the flipping that field position there, that it would help in the struggling offense. But it didn't. After some weird events that would take place there, Ohio State recovers a fumble in the end zone, and Ohio State goes up 16-6 at that point in time. Neither offense was able to do much, but Ohio State was able to do enough to get the win. Haskins ends up throwing for 227 yards and a touchdown. Weber would rush for 104 yards and a touchdown. But, I mean, I'm with you. I'm not impressed with Ohio State. They're going to have a hard time, I think, even though they're going to be at home, they're going to have a hard time beating Michigan when that matchup happens there, and that'll be a huge game.
Oh, that will be huge. And I can go ahead and say that. I do not give Ohio State a chance. I'm not saying they can't do it, but seeing what I'm seeing now, Michigan wins that game.
Oh, that defense is stifling, and we'll talk about them in a minute.
Yeah, we will talk about them and how many yards they gave up to Rutgers.
Okay.
Hey, guys. Hey, I know you probably had the Z team in against Rutgers, but it's okay. So let's move on, man. Number 9, West Virginia. This is a team I've been on board with most of the year. Well, I mean, they beat TCU. TCU is free falling, obviously. They beat them 47-10 in Morgantown. Will Greer again continues to ball out. He throws 3 touchdown passes as the Mountaineers roll to a victory on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
TCU is just not good right now, brother.
Right. I think the way you say it, the free falling there, man, that has certainly been their season since the loss to Ohio State back earlier this year. Mountaineers scored quickly and often, and it looked like TCU didn't know what was hitting them in the midst of this game. If they do have any kind of highlight or bright spot on this thing, it was the wide receiver Rieger, who had 11 receptions for 150 yards and a touchdown. So he played really, really well. But the rushing attack for that game was never able to make any kind of noise. Only one player rushed for any kind of positive yardage at all in the game. I think they had 6 guys who ran the ball, and only one of them got positive yardage, and he only had 19 yards on the ground. So their bright spot in the running game was running for 19 yards. So you're not going to win.
TCU, bottom line, they're struggling.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about a team that, again, I'm liking what I'm seeing from him. I'm liking the mustache. I'm liking the mustache on Coach Leach at the end of the game,
Yep.
I don't know if you saw that. But
I
number
did.
8, Washington State, they beat Colorado, which is another team that's free-falling, which
Yep.
was ranked earlier on in the season. They beat them 31-7 in Boulder, Colorado. Gardner Minshew started off slow because Washington obviously went out and they failed 3 fourth-down attempts. But in the end, Colorado couldn't get any pressure on Minshew as he finished out the game 35-58 for 58, passing for 335 yards and 2 touchdowns. And with this loss, man, like I said, Colorado continues their free fall, but Washington State continues to roll.
Colorado jumps out to a 7-0 lead in the first quarter, and then it was all Cougars from that point on, and they were able to kind of get things rolling there, dominate this game. Washington State has to jump over LSU this week, right? I mean, we can't keep sitting there with LSU ahead of them in the college football playoff, right? They've got one less loss. They're dominating their competition at this point in time, and they actually have an outside chance of getting in here. LSU has no chance, so They got to jump them, right?
I would say so, man. Especially while you ask that question, let's transition right into the LSU game because they're right next to them. And we can talk about them barely beating Arkansas 24-17. So number 7, LSU beats Arkansas 24-17 in Razorback Stadium. I mean, got it. LSU, they bounce back from their loss against Alabama and they win. But man, their game, this game, Arkansas tried to get in it at the end. But again, LSU's defense shows why they really hold them for the first three quarters to only 3 points, and shows how dominant that defense is. But man, again, only beating Arkansas 24-17 shows that the offense is still not up to par and up to where it needs to be to really compete with an Alabama.
And you've said it all season, and that they do have this great defense, and they do. They've got a really stacked, stout defense there. But there's only so much that they can do. I mean, they can't be responsible for scoring all the points as well.
Exactly.
And so they get up there, and you're right, man. For the first 3 quarters, man, that defense held strong. They held them through. I think they held them almost 91 total yards of offense through the first 3 quarters. And then the fourth quarter hit, and they start making this little run, man. They score 14 points there, and they make this thing a much closer game than what it's supposed to be. So I don't know, man. That defense is really, really good, but they can't do everything by itself.
But to answer your question, man, I don't know what the committee is seeing in some of these teams and how they're ranking some of these teams. And I don't know if some of this stuff is based off the eye test or their personal preferences or what.
Right.
But it seems like there's some bias going on. And I'm not trying to say, SEC bias or whatever it is. But, man, okay, you can say Washington State wouldn't beat LSU. Why wouldn't they, though? Because they'll be able to throw the ball all over the field. I'm not saying LSU wouldn't slow them down.
Yeah.
But when you have an air raid attack like they got, LSU will have their hands full. And then I can see Washington State slowing LSU's offense down.
I can see, looking at it from this angle, why Pac-12 fans have such this massive uproar about what's going on and how they are constantly feeling like they're left out. I don't think that Washington State should be up there in the top 4 or maybe even really the top 6 at this point in time. But I do feel like that they're being a little bit pushed to the side here and forgotten about by having a 2-loss LSU team in front of them. I get that LSU's second loss was to Alabama. I understand that. But you got shut out.
Yeah.
You weren't able to put up any points there. And so I'm just thinking that, man, there should be a little bit more love there for a 1-loss Pac-12 team who's been putting them up and taking them down for the last several weeks.
Agreed. So let's transition to a shootout, brother. It seems like this conference just continues to deliver shootouts for us because the defense decides not to show up to these games. So number 6 Oklahoma beats Oklahoma State, which I thought Oklahoma was just going to dominate this game. But if we learned anything, Oklahoma State beat Texas, and Texas beat Oklahoma. So Oklahoma State loses off a failed 2-point conversion, 48-47 in Norman, Oklahoma. I like the gamble at the end, I guess.
Sure.
To a certain extent. But then I'm like, why can't we continue this going on? I want to see that 10 overtime game that is just elusive to me right now this year. But Kyler Murray passes for 349 yards. He rushes for 66 more. And like I said, the Sooners needed to survive a late 2-point conversion to win this game or to get forced to overtime. But, hey, man, it's one of those things. Oklahoma State was going for the win.
Yep.
And it just, the tide just didn't go their way.
Well, I wonder if in the back of Mike Gundy's mind was last week's game of Texas versus West Virginia.
It was.
And he saw how, they couldn't stop them, man. They were West Virginia had the momentum, and they were able, and had Will Greer run that ball in and being able to score the 2-point conversion to get them to win. So I wonder if that was in the back of his mind, saying, hey, we're going to do the same thing here to Oklahoma. We got the momentum right now. They can't stop us. We're going to score right here. It's going to be all she wrote. And then Oklahoma does make a big defensive, in a game that saw very little defense, they make a big defensive stand there to be able to come away with the win on this game and escape. They really did escape, because they had this game taken care of in the fourth quarter. They led Oklahoma State back into it, and they were able to escape with it. So props to them. But if they're going to be one of the top 4 teams in the country, if they're going to be one of the ones that can be talked about in the conversations with a Michigan or with a Clemson or with an Alabama, their defense has got to shape up.
Over 1,300 total yards between these two teams. Are you kidding me right now? You're talking about 640 for Oklahoma State. You had 702 from Oklahoma. You had Cornelius. He threw for 501 yards. He was on point. Taylor Cornelius is a baller. He showed that he can step up in some of these games and ruin your season. They didn't get the job done in this game. Kyler Murray, he had a great game, 21 for 29, 349 yards. But, man, the story of this game to me is no defense. And until you get a defense, I don't think you have a lifeline really to survive. And again, like I said, offenses win games, like it proves here. But the defenses are going to win you the championship. So whose defense out of these teams that score that a lot that can possibly get into the college football playoff is going to actually step up and answer the bell when they get it, if they get into the top 4, and to go up against an Alabama, to go up against a Georgia, some of those teams that actually have legit defenses, a Clemson. I mean, are they going to be able to survive when they face those teams? I don't know, but I'm not seeing a 48-47, Oklahoma-Alabama game. That's just not happening.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about it is that we have seen Alabama be able to put up those points like that. So I mean, they're gonna be able to score. You're not gonna score that number of points against a Alabama defense or against a Clemson defense or a Michigan defense or anything like that. You're not gonna put that up there. So you got to figure out a way to slow that other offense down too.
No, without a doubt. So let's go to number 5, Georgia. Taking care of business and beating number 24 Auburn 27-10. Georgia used a pair of late touchdowns in the first half to really take control of this game, man. DeAndre Swift continues the ball. He runs. He's healthy now, and you can tell it because he runs for 186 yards, and he includes that 77-yard scamper early in the fourth quarter to basically put this game away.
It was another little bit of a slow start there for the Bulldogs, man, kind of figuring out things and getting things clicking in that first quarter. And then the second quarter, they really took over. And once again, man, we are seeing that running game, as you mentioned just a minute ago, with DeAndre Swift leading the charge, seeing that running game taking over, man, taking some pressure off of Jake Fromm where he doesn't have to do it all by himself. And then that defense is stepping up, holding Auburn to 10 points, not allowing Auburn's offense to get into a groove or anything like that, not allowing Stiham to be able to do anything there. But, man, I tell you what, this defense is starting to look good. That running game starting to look good, and this is looking like the Georgia team, the Bulldog team that we expected to see in the beginning of the season. And now that everybody's healthy, this could be an interesting SEC championship game coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. It's shaping up to be that way, and hopefully everybody comes in unscathed to that game, and it'll just the hype for that game will just be off the charts. Let's go to number 4, Michigan.
Okay,
this is not much we got to say about this, but they beat Rutgers 42-7. In New Jersey. Shea Patterson throws for 260 yards, 3 touchdowns. Karen Higdon, he ran for a pair of 1-yard scores, and Michigan continues to keep his college football playoff hopes alive and intact. And however, my thing for this game was Michigan did give up 252 yards to the Scarlet Knights. Come on, man.
And I believe that the response that the majority of Sports Nation would say to you would be, how many points did they get?
True.
But I get it, though. You don't want to give up that amount of yardage to a Rutgers team or to any team, really, but you don't want to give that amount of yardage to Rutgers, who has 1 win on the season. But at the end of the day, if you played this bend, don't break offense or defense there, and you were able to hold it up there, hey, most of that yardage came on the run, so you certainly don't want to allow a team to be running all over you like that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to hate Michigan fans. I just wanted to kind of push the minor flaw I saw in this performance out there.
They appreciate that. They appreciate you taking out that little nugget right there on them.
So, all right, guys. Now I'm picking everybody else's team. We're getting to my game. My
There we
team.
go.
Number 3, Notre Dame beats Florida State 42-13 in South Bend. Backup quarterback Brandon Wimbush threw 3 first-half touchdown passes, and Dexter Williams ran all over my nose for a career-high 202 yards. And Notre Dame took advantage of our horrible offense, defense, and our early turnovers to rout us at home. And it was one of the coldest nights, I think in the top 5 coldest nights that Notre Dame's played a game in over there in South Bend. But, man,
Right.
Florida State, what blows my mind is their decision to go with DeAndre Francois over James Blackman after what he did against NC State. I think, man, is the red shirt intact? It is. But you got to let us know as fans that that's what you're doing. You can't just say they didn't even entertain the option of Blackman coming into this game. And Francois, I got it. There was receivers dropping the ball all over the place. It was cold. But, man, he was inaccurate as well. We couldn't get anything going, and it was just a real disappointing display from a team that has the players and the talent, and they just continue to go in this downward spiral.
I know I don't want to spend too much time here, but I do want to ask you a question as a former college athlete. Put yourself in the shoes of DeAndre Francois. All right, man, you got this season of expectations coming into it, and then you've watched the downward spiral that's been coming out here, and then you hear the calling, you hear the commotion there to bench you and go with somebody else in that quarterback position. Talk to me about what's going on in his mind, or you think's going on in his mind, or as far as a college athlete is concerned, and trying to face that opposition there, and being in a game like this where you're just absolutely dominated from beginning to end.
Well, I mean, I know he has to think his time's coming. Obviously, I think earlier in the week he was very confident in keeping that position because I think the coaches might have had a conversation with him. He announced himself before the coaches did that he was the number 1 quarterback. The coaches have made that clear. So I think even on Monday, everybody was furious. The fan base was furious because it was like, look, he might be the better talent overall. But
Right.
Who is going to give us the better chance to win right now is definitely James Blackman because of his pocket presence and how he can move around the pocket. And he's not a typical, just stand there and throw the rock quarterback like Francois is right now in college. I mean, and with the offensive line, you got to give us a chance. And it looks like they've packed the bags up, man, and just started looking forward to next year, I guess.
Well, I guess we'll continue to see. We've got, 2 games left in the season for Florida State at this point. And
they have to win both of them to get bowl eligible.
Well, I don't necessarily know if that's going to happen.
No.
But
Boston College is next, and then Florida. Not happening.
We'll see, but I'm with you.
So let's move on to number 2, Clemson, man.
Yep.
I was on Facebook Live on Thursday with Kyle Snyder from our Archangel Alliance, and we talked some football, and we talked some basketball.
Yeah.
But number 2, Clemson, the defense dominated this game. They clinched the ACC Atlantic Division, and their defense knocked out Eagles quarterback Anthony Brown early in the game. They hold Boston College to a total of 113 total yards all night long. Trevor Lawrence throws a touchdown pass and runs for another score. That win continues to show that Clemson is a staying power and is the cream of the crop in the ACC.
Boston College's lone bright spot in the game was a 74-yard touchdown punt return for a touchdown there by Michael Walker, and that was it. There was nothing else to really get excited about or to celebrate or anything like that. There was not a lot of talk about, this right here would be a good challenge for Clemson.
Yeah.
Not really, but not really. We can still see that Clemson's the class of the ACC, and they're going to walk their way into the ACC championship game, and they're going to walk their way out of the ACC championship game with the ACC title.
Oh, without a doubt, man. I mean, me and my, colleague on Thursday night had a difference of opinion in this game. He thought that Boston College was really going to, with the temperature and everything, really going to give Clemson fits. Man, yeah. Clemson, again, proves why they're where they're at. And
right.
that Boston College is nowhere near their level.
Sure.
So let's move to another game.
Speaking of not on anybody's level.
Yeah. Number 1, Alabama beats number 16, Mississippi State, 24-0 at Bryant-Denny Stadium. This game, though, was not without controversy. Alabama's defense continues to dominate, but some people might differ on that opinion as Josh Jacobs runs for a touchdown and caught a scoring pass for Alabama, and their defense posted second straight shutout on Saturday. I did watch this game, man, and some of those calls it really looked like it was like they were on Alabama's side. You know, the block in the back, you know, that negated Mississippi State's touchdown, you know, was a phantom one because the guy did not touch him in the back. He was trying to make a play on the defender. He falls, but it looked I can see from where the ref's standing, it looked like a block in the back. Stuff like that should be reviewable in my eyes. Obviously, they say they can't review it, whatever it is. That no fumble that should have been called, you know, when the running back's knee bends up, he drops the ball. I don't know if they even looked or reviewed that, man, but some of that stuff's questionable. And I can see the argument of everybody saying, oh, the refs always choose Alabama, got it. But, man, at the end of the day, when you look at it, Mississippi State only had 169 total yards.
Right.
I mean, come on. They do knock Tua out of the game. Yeah. With a quad injury, obviously. But it looked like, man, there was some plays there where they were looking like they were holding on to that knee, twisting, and really targeting that knee to knock him out. And, dude, he goes out, and this could be a bigger story later on as the season progresses.
Look, I mean, for me, that's the story coming out of this game. We expect Alabama to beat Mississippi State. We didn't expect them probably to shut them out, but hey, we all see what Mississippi State's offense is. It's Nick Fitzgerald, so he goes, so the offense goes. If you can slow him down and not allow him to run the ball, which they don't, he rushed the ball 14 times for negative 23 yards. So you know, so you're able to shut him down. For me, that's the tale of the offense side of the ball there for Mississippi State. Tua coming out of this game still being hurt when you had heard somewhat throughout the week that he was good, he was healthy, and everything was going to be fine. Coming out of that game again, still hurting. Nick Saban said he could go back in if he had needed to, but he didn't need to, so there wasn't no big deal there. Jalen Hurts still missing another week of the game and not knowing when or if he's going to be able to come back and play. There are some question marks there. And if I'm an Alabama fan, the question mark between you and a national championship is the health of your quarterback. If he goes out of this thing and is injured and can't play, there's a lot of scenarios that may line up here where, you know, if you go into the SEC championship game and you're all, you know, you've lost a game or you lose that game, do you still make it in?
No, I mean, exactly. I mean, when you got number 10, Matt Jones, I believe is his name, or I know it's Jones is his last name. Dude, right. He's just not ready. You know, he's not ready to be thrusted in the spotlight. He didn't look great at all. But when you got Hurts coming off of that foot surgery or whatever surgery it was recently over the last few weeks, he's emergency situations and he's not going to be ready. And then you say, you know, Tua could come back in emergency situations. But if you have two quarterbacks like that are basically the quarterbacks that can catapult you to the championship game, and you're having to rely on that third string, man.
Yeah,
I know Alabama's going to have a great defense, and I know they have great skill players, but is that third string really going to be able to put them in a chance to win? And I would say no when you're looking at a Clemson, when you're looking at the Georgias, when you're looking at the Michigans. I mean, they have great defenses, and their offenses could do just enough to beat you.
You know that as an Alabama team, you can rely on your defense. You're right, but you've got to have somebody that's going to be able to help you score some points there, especially against these top tier better teams. You got the best coach in the country. Don't get me wrong, all right, but you still got to have some talent on that field.
No, without a doubt. All right, brother. That leads us. We're final with the top 25, the college football top 25. Enough with the college football, brother. Let's switch topics and talk some college basketball, because college basketball is in its first week, obviously. I think this is day 6. Haven't really officially completed the first week yet. You know, first 7 days haven't been out. So we had 2 huge top 10 matchups, which I talked about on Thursday as well, but we didn't get your take. And they happened on November 6th. We had Kansas, the number 1 team in the country, taking on number 10 Michigan State, and then number 2 Kentucky squaring off with number 4 Duke. And on Friday, we got introduced to Auburn and Washington to see kind of what they have. But, man, let's talk about number 1 Kansas holding off number 10 Michigan State in their 92-87 opener.
Man, you saw a really good game there of two teams that are still going to be hanging around here come late March. You know that Kansas, coached by Bill Self, and the talent that he's got on that team this year with the squad that he's bringing back and the players that he's added, man, there's some really talented guys on there. You saw Lawson go for 20 points and 14 rebounds. Huge game for him. Azubuike, man, put in 17 points as well with 4 blocks. Grimes got him 21 points and 4 assists. Dotson had 16 points, 3 steals, 3 assists for the game. Man, those guys really began to ball out. They let, and I don't know if you say let, but man, Michigan State really worked hard to get back into this game, man. Tom Izzo and that crew, man. I tell you what, I'm not a Michigan State fan, obviously, but I think Tom Izzo is certainly one of the best coaches in the country when it comes to college basketball. There's not a team that he probably can't coach there, and you had some guys that were scrapping. One of the things I love about a Tom Izzo team is how well he uses every player on his team, man. You're going to see every player on that bench, man, get a chance to contribute, and all of them do have something that they can contribute. Goins went for 17 points and 11 rebounds. Langford came in with 18 points. And if you look there at the stat sheets around those teams, man, you're going to see down the line, man, everybody contributes something towards that game, man. And so they really fought hard to get back into this game. They didn't quite have enough, and I would say this, they probably quite don't have enough talent at this point in time to be able to upset and defeat a Kansas team who is only going to get better as this year goes along. I can see why they would have had that number 1 ranking coming into the preseason, looking at some of those guys. And, man, they got some big boys on that team, just to be honest with you, man. Those guys are tall, those guys are long, and they are strong.
Oh, without a doubt.
I like that.
I like that too. I mean, brother, I agree, man. I mean, what jumped out to me, obviously, was Kansas, Quentin Grimes, and Dedrick Lawson. I mean, they made quite an impression, brother. I mean, they produced basket after basket, big play after big play. If they keep playing this way, they're going to be there at the end. You might just stay on top of the college basketball world all year, but there is another team out there that we'll get to in just a second. But, man, like you said, Grimes, he scores 21 points in his college debut. Lawson adds 20. I mean, Michigan State, like you said, fought back into this game, but with a late charge, obviously. But, I mean, really, Kansas controlled this game majority of the time, and then Michigan State made that late run. But, man, this was an impressive game. This was a great matchup to watch. And it was definitely, you know, I know it wouldn't be your highlight of the night, but it was like when you have two of the teams going up against each other, you know, the number 1 and number 10, it was definitely a game that was close, that you can walk away with saying both of these teams are good.
The thing about it is that for this game, and it's early in the season, so you kind of have to take it for what it's worth. And I would say this thing about the next game that happened that night as well is that, man, there were a lot of ticky-tack fouls that were being committed on both teams. And both teams, you probably would have seen a little bit of a difference in the stat lines on some of this stuff, but you had teams guys that were getting into foul trouble early. Some of that is just a part of it being the first game of the season, the first part of the season there, where guys are still learning their approach there and what's going on there and how things are going to be called and that kind of deal. But, man, that is something to keep an eye on as the season goes, is watching how these guys handle being in foul trouble.
No, agreed, man. I think we were trading texts, and I was like, let the boys play. I mean,
yeah,
I got it. There's going to be fouls called. They have to call a certain way, and they got to make the presence known. But some of these, man, I'm just like, this is basketball, man. Sure. If it's not obvious, don't call it. Just let these dudes play. These are the best teams in the nation. Let them play ball. Stop. I hate when it comes down to free throws and all this ridiculousness. Let them shoot the rock. Right. Let them play. And if it's obvious foul, call it.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's transition, though, brother. Rich really was the game of the night. And I talked about this on Thursday with Kyle as well. But, I mean, number 4, Duke, blows out number 2, Kentucky, 118-84. R.J. Barrett scores 33 points. Zion, my man, Williamson, added 28 as both players broke the school record by points in a freshman debut. And the Blue Devils, like I said, just stomped Kentucky. I mean, and this is something that even translated over to today when they played Army. Mm-hmm. They go on to win 92-74, I believe. But, you know, you had R.J. Barrett, you had Reddish, and you had Zion. They all score in the 20s, man, 25, 23. I mean, these kids look unstoppable.
I tell you what, man, as a Duke fan, it was amazing to watch these guys. And look, we've watched really good classes play together before. Just last year, you saw Wendell Carter Smith and then Wendell Carter Jr. and then Marvin Bagley playing together. I mean, you saw that way. We've had Kyrie Irving there. You know, you've had Jason Tatum. You've had these guys. But, man, this right here is one of the few teams that I've been able to watch to where they look like the guys are really enjoying playing together. Now, You're playing together as you're winning, and so you're going to enjoy playing together. But, I mean, you watch the way that these guys are sharing the ball, the way that they're dishing out. I expected them to go inside. I don't know that I expected them to shoot the three as well as they did on Tuesday night. I don't expect that to continue. It didn't happen today, especially in the beginning part of the game, although Cam Reddish, when they played Army today, he broke the freshman three-point record today by hitting 7 threes. So I mean, there's something to be said there as well. Zion Williamson nailed a three in the first part of the Kentucky game as well to kind of really set the tone there. But, man, there's a lot of conversation, as well it should be, about Zion and his talent and his ability. I mean, he's 6'8", he's 275 pounds. When he goes to the NBA next year, he's going to be the second heaviest player in the league, and he can handle the point. I mean, he was playing point guard as a freshman in high school. So, I mean, it's crazy. But he's not even the best player on the team. R.J. Barrett this kid is special. 33 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. Man, it was insane to watch those guys play. But there's the freshman on that class right there that doesn't get a whole lot of conversation about, but for me is the straw that stirs the drink, is Trey Jones. He's running the point. 6 points, 7 assists. Okay, good. That's pretty doggone special. But here's the stat. 0 turnovers.
Very huge.
7 assists to 0 turnovers. As a team, they only had 4 turnovers in this game against Kentucky versus Kentucky's 20-plus turnovers that they had, man. It was an insane game to watch. Jack White, who is a guy who was on the team last year, he's one of the captains this year, but he's not starting, and not that he should. He doesn't have the talent to start, but he came in there, especially as some guys got into foul trouble. They had some guys get into foul trouble and had to go to their bench. White comes in and he puts in 30 minutes in this game. 9 points, 11 rebounds,
Huge.
And is the guy who is hustling all over the court, man, getting every loose ball, making the dirty plays, getting on the ground, man, getting everybody fired up, man. He just did such a phenomenal job, man. I'm excited about him, watching him play. Man, it was it really was. Tuesday's tip-off didn't happen until 10 o'clock our time, and so, man, I was kind of like, oh, gosh, this is going to be a late night, even later than what I thought it was going to be. But, man, they got in there, man. They started playing, and, dude, it was lights out from the time the tip-off to the time that the game ended, man. Those guys rolled 118 points. The worst loss that John Calipari has had while he's been at Kentucky. So, I mean, it was a complete blowout. The top 2 freshman recruiting classes playing against each other, from Duke at number 1 and Kentucky at number 2. And, man, while I anticipated, because Kentucky had a little bit more experience than Duke does, they had some returning starters, I expected it to take these Duke players a little while to gel. But, man, it looks like they're in mid-season form right now, ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What's going to be interesting to me to see, though, because I've watched both of the games they've played so far, is how they're out and they're pushing the ball, they're pushing the tempo, and they're really not running any set plays.
Yeah.
Right now. So it's going to be interesting to me to see what happens when they go up against a team that's able to slow them down a little bit, that's able to make them, like, get in set plays, that, and so that's going to be something that I still think they will be able to overcome. But like I said, it's going to be something that we can look forward to and see how they react when they do come up against a team that way.
When you see Kentucky, too, I want to touch on them just real quickly. Travis there, they had 22 points and 7 rebounds. Johnson had 23 points and 4 rebounds. There's some bright spots on that team. However, there is some conversations happening about them right now because this loss kind of transitioned over into Friday,
yes.
And they struggled there in their game against, was it Southern Illinois?
Southern
Illinois, that's right. And they struggled in that game. They were losing at the half. They were tied with 5 minutes to go, and Kentucky was able to pull away and win that game. But there is some question marks now about maybe they were ranked 2I, and we'll get some new rankings out on Monday for college basketball season too. So we'll see where everything kind of lines up.
Yeah, I mean, I think when those come out, you'll probably, because of the way the Kansas played, I think Kansas will probably be number 1, Duke 2. But I mean, if I was the guy voting, it'd definitely be Duke. Again, I'm not a Duke fan by no means, but I like what this team's doing, and I'm going to actually be rooting for them as the season goes on, just because of what I like seeing. I like Zion. I like Barrett. I like Reddish. I like that nucleus they have going on, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do.
And they're fun to watch.
Yes, no doubt. So let's move on to another ranked game, which was number 11 Auburn beating number 25 Washington 88-66. The Auburn Tigers obviously played a game earlier on in the week. They won that one. Mm-hmm. They gave the sellout crowd plenty to cheer about. They got a huge lead early over a ranked non-conference team to the return of Austin Wiley to the court. And it was a lopsided victory, man. The Tigers, they cruised. They raced out to 18-point halftime lead, pushed the lead, obviously, to 30 in this game. I mean, again, it was a huge ranked non-conference win for them. And that's the first home win over a ranked non-conference team in nearly 48 years. So you had Chumi, what is it? Akiki, I would say, had 19
Sure.
points and 10 rebounds.
Yep.
I mean, dude, they took care of business, and they showed why they're one of the top teams in the nation.
You had a well-rounded effort by Auburn there with a lot of their guys contributing. It's going to be interesting to watch this team as the season progresses because there are a lot of expectations around this Auburn team, and that's not something that they've really had a lot in their basketball seasons. They've had good teams before that have made some runs there in the SEC and in the NCAA tournament, but this team right here probably has some of the higher expectations that Auburn's ever had when it comes to a good basketball season in the last several years. So it'll be interesting to watch these guys play. Man, you had some guys that had some really good game. Doty, I think is his name. I can't remember.
Scored 18.
18 points, 4 steals, 4 assists, 4 rebounds. He had a great game. Harper, 13 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. So well-rounded effort by that team who had it's a good win against a good Washington team. Washington didn't look great in this game, but they're still a really good team.
Yeah. And so as I look at this schedule, man, obviously Wednesday, November 14th, we have number 19 Michigan and number 9 Villanova.
Hold up, before we get there.
Yeah. Well, I was going to transition to that. I'm going to transition to that.
My bad.
So
game we can't miss.
No, I know. I got that. We're not missing this one because it's going to be the upset that we close on. So, but I want to let everybody know it's like, there's going to be a lot of changing in the rankings, obviously. Some ups and downs possibly, but there's not a lot of big games going on.
Right.
So until you get the tournaments, until you get the holiday tournaments going on. But again, the next big matchup that we can look forward to on a regular season schedule is number 19 Michigan versus number 9 Villanova on November 14th. So guys, that's going to be on a Wednesday. Make sure you tune in for that. But man, we can't forget the huge upset that happened during the week. Tell us about it, brother.
All right, man. So Buffalo, a team that probably nobody really pays any attention to when it comes to their college basketball team.
Listen to that again. Say that again. What's the team's
Buffalo.
name? Buffalo.
It's Buffalo.
It's not Buffalo Bills, guys. This is the NCAA Buffalo, okay?
That's right. All right.
Continue.
So we have Buffalo, and they're going up against number 13 West Virginia. Now, let's go ahead and set it. I mean, it's not like a big spoiler alert or anything like that. But Buffalo defeated number 13 West Virginia 99-94 in overtime. Buffalo, this is the same Buffalo team with some different parts in it that went into the NCAA tournament last year and upset number 4 seed Arizona. They would go on to lose to Kentucky the very next game, but they had that big win under the belt that's gotten them a little bit of momentum for a program that's on the upswing. All right. So then they come into this game number 13 against number 13 West Virginia. This game is scheduled. It's on the list right there. I'm sure that West Virginia and Bob Huggins, man, who is a good coach, who has a really good team, who always makes a lot of noise there in the NCAA tournament, is thinking, all right, this is our win. C.J. Massenberg for Buffalo has 43 points and 14 rebounds. They had to rally from with a 15-4 run to force overtime. They come back 15-4 in the final parts of this game to force overtime. They end up outscoring West Virginia 15-10 in overtime. Jeremy Harris goes 16 points and 9 rebounds for Buffalo. Javon Graves 14 points for Buffalo. Nate Perkins has 10 points off the bench for Buffalo to help do this thing. And at interview with Bob Huggins after the game, he says, man, one of the telltale signs of this game right here was winning the turnover margin. He said that's normally what his team does, but Buffalo was able to win the turnover margin 19-11. Man, they forced West Virginia into 19 turnovers. It wasn't all bad for West Virginia. Lamont West had 22 points and 9 rebounds for West Virginia. But here's another huge stat for this game that'll help. You can't really lose the rebounding edge and win games, but you certainly can't lose the offensive rebounding edge. Buffalo was able to win the offensive rebounding edge against West Virginia 29-14.
That's huge.
That's offensive rebound. They got 29 offensive rebounds, man. That's 29 second chance opportunities right there to put the ball back into the hole, to keep the ball in your favor, and man, to run some more clock down there. 15, I mean, that 15-4 run there at the end of the game, man. I get it, man. There ain't a whole lot that you can do, man. When that momentum starts to swing right there, man, you know that team's gonna make a run, and boom, they do. Force overtime, 15-10 in overtime. They win the game, 99-94. Big upset for the beginning week of college basketball season. We think college football is great, and it is, but man, man, you start seeing some upsets like this to happen right there, man. It's gonna be a wild and crazy season with college basketball.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, like you said, but in college basketball, to be fair, you can lose a little more than you can in football.
Oh, absolutely.
So you're gonna see some crazy upsets. You're gonna see some things happening, and then when we get to March Madness, man, it's named March Madness for a reason.
Yeah,
it's gonna be awesome. So, brother, I think we're out. We're done.
I think that's it. It for this week.
This concludes episode 10, brother. So I appreciate you jumping on with me.
Yeah, man.
Again, like I said, man, it was fun. I appreciate your time, brother.
Hey, man, it's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. It's been great. And, man, appreciate another week of some college sports.
Yeah, brother. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the College Sports Hour. Make sure to check out and subscribe to the College Sports Hour. Our podcast can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Radio Republic, heroesmediagroup.com under their shows tab, and collegesportshour.com. Make sure to like and follow us on Facebook, guys, as we continue to grow our College Sports Hour community. Like and share, like Greg said at the beginning. Also, visit our website at collegesportshour.com, where we continue the college sports conversation and post articles.
Hey, guys, we want to remind everybody, man, we're recording this thing on Veterans Day, so we give a special shout-out to all of our servicemen and women out there, man, those who have served. Man, we are so thankful, so grateful for your sacrifice. Thank you to you, and thank you to your families and the supports that they have given. Man, we really could not have done this without you and your sacrifice, so thank you so much for that. And once again, Clint, thank you for your service, man. So proud of you, so thankful for what you've done for this country and for our family, man. Very proud of you, appreciate you. And guys, just want to remind you as well that our podcast today is brought to you by our sponsor, Blue 4 Tactical, and they sell just about everything you need for shooting, hunting, and outdoors. The Blue 4 Tactical website is live now. You need to go visit it at blue4tactical.com. And guess what? When you go visit, you get to enjoy 10% off of all the purchases for the first 7 days and free shipping. That's right, I said free shipping with all purchases of $100 or more. That is blue4tactical.com. Go ahead and go visit, guys. You won't be disappointed. Be ready, be prepared, be decisive.
With that said, guys, we also want to give a special shout out to our family and friends, and that includes all our listeners, followers, and subscribers. Thanks for continuing to support what we do. Don't forget, guys, to join us next week for another episode of the College Sports Hour.